Good morning. Welcome to the Buffalo Sewer Queen City Clean Waters virtual public participation forum. I know it's a Saturday morning. Folks are finishing up breakfast, doing chores in the house, cleaning up. So we'll give folks a few minutes to jump on before we proceed. Thank you. Good morning. We will start the forum in another 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, let us get moving with the public participation forum. This meeting will be recorded. Slides and the recording will be posted on Buffalo Sewer's website. So Art, as our community engagement lead on the program team, I'll ask you to kick things off for us.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining the Queen City Clean Waters Public Participation Forum, the virtual forum for our program. Um, we're excited to have a diverse opportunity to reach a various group of stakeholders that have come together to discuss the progress of the future of the Queen City Clean Waters. We previously held 9 district council meetings, a meeting in every district to discuss the Queen City Clean Waters Program and initiative, but to also discuss and reveal the projects that are within those districts and to take questions and have dialogue with residents with regards to the program. As a reminder for today's presentation, the initiative plays a crucial role in addressing water quality issues across the city, focusing on sustainable solutions and community engagement, environmental stewardship. And in today's meeting, we'll provide updates on key projects and share insights from recent efforts and have some dialogue with you all with any questions that you may have during our question and answer period. So we'll go through a brief introduction, turn it back over to Mr. Walker. He'll talk a little bit about the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative, and then we're going to have a fantastic presentation by Rosie Nogle, who is our Chief Sanitation Engineer. And then we'll come back and talk about some community engagement initiatives. So with that being said, I want to give just a brief overview, very brief, of the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative. And you may have heard some of this through our engagement efforts between last year and this year. So the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative is Buffalo Sewer Authority's long-term investment in clean water and climate resilience. It is our city's response to the Environmental Protection Agency mandate to reduce sewer overflows into our waterways. And this is a commitment to green infrastructure and strategic upgrades and equitable investments across the Buffalo neighborhoods. The goal of this initiative is to reduce combined sewer overflows into our rivers and streams and improve water quality and public health. Throughout the past couple of years, you may have seen a trifold flyer through some of our community engagement efforts. Some of you may have participated in a phone survey, may have seen us at tabling events and at your block club meetings with information, and you may have heard something about the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative. That was a prelude to the projects that was going to be coming within the city of Buffalo. Today, we want to talk a little bit about the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative, but then kind of give a final recap of each of the districts that we have participated in with some of these meetings. So with that, Walt, I'm going to turn it back to you and we will continue in our meeting.
Thank you, Art. Couldn't have said it any better than you did with that intro. So, on behalf of the program management team, the consultant team, working with Buffalo Sewer to advance Queen City Clean Waters, welcome and thank you for joining us. This is just one of many touch points we aim to have with you as stakeholders, and we look forward to engaging with the community as co-designers and collaborators and in this journey. Queen City Clean Waters is an exciting, unique initiative where everyone in the community will have the opportunity to participate and prosper and to share in the economic, social, and environmental benefits of this massive water infrastructure investment, for the better of the city of Buffalo. So we look forward to your input, your ideas, and we encourage you all to spread the word to your fellow Buffalo neighbors. A few housekeeping issues. This is an online meeting, so for the convenience of background noise, we have muted microphones, but we encourage you to utilize the chat feature and the Q&A feature for question and answer. We will take a break at a midway point of the presentation to answer any questions related to projects. After that break, we'll get into community engagement opportunities, additional ways to get involved. And at the conclusion of that portion of the presentation, we'll have another round of chat and Q&A. So along the way, send in chats and questions. Our team will also be putting some links that we'll present along this way. This meeting will be recorded, and the recording and the posting will be provided on the Buffalo Sewer website. Lastly, I've also turned on the closed caption. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rosalie Nogle, who is the Principal Sanitary Engineer at Buffalo Sewer.
Thank you, Walt. Just a reminder that today is July 12th, 2025. As Walt mentioned, this webinar will be posted to our website at the conclusion of the meeting. And as such, we want to be sure that those that are viewing this later understand that things may change by the time you view this video. Thank you. So we're going to cover some background, the why for all of these projects, and how did we get here, what the overall plan is, and then kind of breaking it out into the projects specific to each council district, and then concluding with opportunities to stay engaged over the next 15 years, but especially over the next few months here. And so we have a lot of terminology that is used within the stormwater and sewer industries. I'm going to, and some of it's specific to the City of Buffalo and the Buffalo Sewer Authority. I will try as much as possible to avoid jargon and some of these abbreviations, but if I do slip into them, I'd like you to know what I'm talking about. So a CSO is a combined sewer overflow. This is the action that occurs during wet weather, during heavy rains, during snow melt events, in which the mix of sanitary sewage, so the water that you flush down your toilet, that you flush down your sink, mixes with stormwater. And when that stormwater gets too much, the system overflows out to the waterways. CSO sometimes is also used as combined sewer outfall. That is the location where these overflows meet the waterways. Now, another term that we have on here is SPP, or Sewer Patrol Point. That is a Buffalo Sewer Authority specific term. It references those places back up within the system where we have specialized dams that we call weirs that allow these overflows to occur. And so these are barriers that keep the sanitary sewage, the everyday flows that you're flushing down your sinks and down your toilets, in our system and flowing to the treatment plant, but also allow those overflows to occur during those wet weather events to keep the sewage from backing up into your basement and into our city streets. Green infrastructure, or GI, is the use of natural processes to keep water in place. So keep the stormwater where it's falling rather than having it overwhelming our system. And if you've driven along Niagara Street, you've seen our bioswales, and the rain gardens that line Niagara Street today. And then if you drive along Carlton, you might see our permeable pavement where water flows through the pavement into the groundwater instead of into our sewer system. And we've been building out green infrastructure for over a decade now in the city of Buffalo, and we're going to continue to do so. Inline storage is, or ILS, is the use of excess space within the existing system to temporarily store flows so that eventually all of that water can get to the treatment plant. Offline storage is, as you would expect, similar to inline storage, but we're allowing it to flow off the existing system outside of where it would normally go during dry weather, storing it in place, and then bringing it back into the system when there's space. And RTC, or real-time control, is the use of sensors and automated technology that allows us to store offline or store inline and measure what's happening upstream and downstream to ensure that we are maximizing the storage. And it uses all kinds of artificial intelligence and other technologies to do so. So then next slide. Okay, so I mentioned that we're going to cover some background. We're going to go way back to 1825 with the opening of the Erie Canal. In 1825, Buffalo was a small village, and it was a small village that was in a swamp, um, and um, it was not a very pleasant place to be. It smelled, and when it rained, the streets would flood with sewage. Um, and so there were a series of cholera epidemics because people were being exposed to sewage in their drinking water. So between 1832, 1849, and 1852, there was these series of epidemics that occurred. And it was due to the lack of sewers and the opening of the canal, bringing a lot of people into Buffalo. So up until that point, it was a very small frontier village in Buffalo. But once the canal opened, suddenly Buffalo became a hub of raw materials coming in from the west and people and finished materials moving out from the east. And so you had these epidemics, and you also had these areas that just smelled badly and were wet all the time. And so in the 1840s, 1850s, leading into the Civil War, there was this effort to drain the swamp. And so those red lines that you see on that map, those represent the first sewers in the city of Buffalo. And they're connected directly to that dark blue line. That dark blue line is the old canal system that used to run through downtown Buffalo. And everything directly connected to those canals. So the city drained itself, but it drained itself into the canals. And so the people that were on the areas around the sewers, they no longer were getting sick from cholera, but people that were interacting with the canals, they were still getting cholera. And there were a lot of issues in those early days. Next slide. So after the canals, in the 1880s into the 1900s, there was this big push to completely sewer the city of Buffalo. And by 1900, cholera had been eliminated in the city of Buffalo. And it had been eliminated through building out sewers. And at the tip of Bird Island at Albany Street, there's a giant sewer that runs out to the river. And everything connected to that. And during dry weather, everything flowed out to the Niagara River. And the people of the city of Buffalo were no longer getting sick from drinking sewage. But there was no treatment plant. And so in 1907, the Canadians started noticing the issue that came about because there were no treatment plants in the city of Buffalo. And they did surveys of people on both sides of the border. And what they found is that 0.2% of the population of Niagara Falls, New York, was dying each year from typhoid. And by 1918, it was conclusively proven that the reason that people in Niagara Falls, New York were dying was because the city of Buffalo had no wastewater treatment plant. Over the course of the next 17 years, there were various pushes towards a treatment facility in the city of Buffalo and towards getting flows to that plant. But also during this period, the Great Depression hit. And so the city of Buffalo was on the verge of bankruptcy and there was not the political will to go about creating a treatment plant as the city of Buffalo. March of 1935, the New York State Health Department finally came through with a mandate requiring the city of Buffalo to address this issue. And specifically, they needed to have a physical or primary sewage treatment plant, and sewers needed to connect to that plant and convey all flows during dry weather and the initial flush during wet weather. But again, this is the height of the Great Depression. The city of Buffalo was near bankruptcy. The city of Buffalo, as the city of Buffalo, simply could not achieve this goal. And so the sewers were spun off into the Buffalo Sewer Authority on March 8, 1935, and given bonding capacity, specifically to deal with the issue of sewage, both stormwater and sanitary sewage in the city of Buffalo. From the 1940s through 1970, after the treatment plant had been constructed, we had World War II, and then there was a lot of sprawl occurring. And that was really fueled by the construction of the three major highways. The 33 not only destroyed the Humboldt Parkway, but it also severed one of the major trunk sewers in the city of Buffalo. So there is a sewer that runs from Niagara Street across the city along Byrd Avenue around Main Street. It wiggles its way down to Ferry Street, and then it runs all the way over to Bailey Avenue. That was constructed in the 1880s into 1890s. But with the coming of the 33, that sewer was cut in half. And so that sewer on the east side of the city had to be rerouted around the 33. And then also there were suddenly up to 12 lanes of hard impervious surface, so surface that doesn't allow rainwater through, running through the city of Buffalo. And when it rains, that water needs to go somewhere. And so pump stations were put in to pump that water up out of the hole and into the sewer system. And new trunk sewers were also constructed to convey that stormwater and that groundwater that was being, that would have otherwise filled the 33. On the I-198, the Skagway Expressway, there's a different story. It is at grade and running along Skagway Creek. And so it didn't disrupt the existing sewer system, but all of the stormwater that falls along the 198 is discharged directly to Skagway Creek. There is no treatment. If there's if somebody has oil or engine fluids leaking along the 198, it's directly discharged to the Skagway Creek, and any grit or grime or wear that occurs to vehicles driving along that road discharges directly to the creek. And then with the 190, that was constructed in an existing right-of-way. And that existing right-of-way existed because it's the bed of the old Erie Canal. So that was already state-owned land that had a transportation purpose, but the transportation purpose was for a canal that had been filled in. When that canal was filled in, 3 sewers were also laid along that path of the old canal. The Swan Trunk, the Interceptor sewers, and then also the Hamburg Drain. And each of these sewers is now, they're very large sewers that are minimally accessible because there's now multi-lanes of high-speed traffic laying on top of them. Next slide. So that brings us to 1972 and the Clean Water Act. Already work had been done to address combined sewers, to bring flows to the treatment plant during dry weather, and even during the initial flush of wet weather, flows went to the Bird Island treatment plant. But it was only a physical treatment plant. So sewage would come in, settle out in these big tanks. And then once the solid material had settled to the bottom, they'd come up, the water would come up over some dams, some weirs around the edge of these tanks, and then be dosed with chlorine and then go out to the Niagara River. By 1972, this technology was no longer considered state-of-the-art. By 1972, treatment plants were expected to have biological treatment as well, or secondary treatment. And so one of the major modifications that the city made, the Buffalo Sewer Authority made in the 1970s, was to expand our treatment facility with the secondary treatment plant process, the biological plant. And with this, we have bacteria that's swimming around in those brown rectangular tanks, and they sit around and they eat poop all day, every day. Air is pushed in so that the bacteria have plenty of oxygen to consume, along with going ahead and eating the poop. And then eventually the whole flow goes out to those round tanks on the edges. And instead of having oxygen pumped in and lots of bubbles happening, it's very still out there. And so the now very fat bacteria and other microbes settle to the bottom of the tanks. Clean water goes over, again, these weir structures, these dams, and then flows out to be treated with bleach and out to the waterway. So this was added in the 1970s. Additionally, backwater gates were added in select parts of the city to keep the rivers and other waterways out of our system, so that we didn't have the waterways backing up into the sewers and taking away sewer capacity. Modifications were made to the existing sewer system, together with the Skajakwada tunnel being drilled. So this was if you look at the bottom piece, there's this green line that runs from Schiller Park all the way to Niagara Street. This is a 90-inch diameter tunnel that runs about 40-50 feet below grade across the city. And it takes flows from the town of Cheektowaga as well as throughout the city of Buffalo and takes it to be treated at our treatment plant. When this tunnel was put in, not only did it create additional dry weather capacity, it also created additional wet weather capacity, and flows that would have otherwise gone to the Skajakwada Drain, which is the underground portion of Skajakwada Creek, were instead diverted to this tunnel. And then the last piece of the puzzle from the 70s was the Kelly Island system. So Kelly Island refers to the outer harbor. Up until the Clean Water Act, the Sewer Authority had only been given jurisdiction over domestic or household and commercial or storefront flows and stormwater. We did not have jurisdiction over industrial discharges. And so on the outer harbor, there was a lot of industry that was directly discharging right to the Buffalo River and Lake Erie in particular. With the Clean Water Act, not only were regulations put in place controlling what these industries could discharge, but also requiring that eventually the flows make its way to a treatment plant. And so this is a series of pump stations, of underground sewers, both pressurized and gravity, that flows from the outer harbor, eventually coming to what we would call canal side today, where there's another pump station, and then into the interceptor system that was put in the 1930s into our treatment facility. Next slide. Okay, so that's all the work that had been done up until the 1990s. There had been a lot of investment put into sewers, into creating a treatment plant, into expanding that treatment plant. But at the end of the day, there's still combined sewer overflows during wet weather. So during wet weather, the mix of sanitary sewage and stormwater still flows to our waterways. And up until this point, US EPA had really been focusing on those areas of the country that were just directly discharging sewage right to the waterways. But now that issue had been resolved, the focus became upon addressing those wet weather concerns. And so they put through this policy in 1994 that a LTCP, a long-term control plan, had to be developed for every community that had combined sewer overflows to mitigate the impact on the environment of those overflows. Technology was limited in the 1990s, and it took about 10 years for the city of Buffalo, the Buffalo Sewer Authority, to develop an initial attempt at a long-term control plan. This was submitted in 2004, and it took 3 years for the state and the federal governments to review that initial plan and come back with additional comments, requesting additional evaluations, and so that the sewer authority then started to address those issues. And at the same time, negotiations of a consent decree began in 2009. Simultaneous with this regulatory push was also the development of new technologies. These included real-time control for the control of remote structures, and also green infrastructure to hold water in place. And by the time the Sewer Authority submitted their final long-term control plan in 2012, it incorporated in these new technologies. And we spent the next 2 years going back and forth with the regulators, tweaking things. And on March 18th, 2014, the US EPA and New York State DEC approved our long-term control plan. And it was a 20-year project to address combined sewer overflows in the city of Buffalo. As part of this, we also needed to do some additional modeling a few years into the plan. And that was completed in 2022. And it was approved by the regulators at that time. Once it was approved, we were able to run the revised hydraulic model. So the model showing how water is flowing throughout the city of Buffalo during different storm events. And what we found is that we would not meet compliance if we continued with all of the projects in that original plan. And so in 2023, we submitted to our regulators a revised list of projects, 51 projects that would meet the goals of the plan. Next slide. Now, when I say that the 2014 plan would not have reached compliance, I want to be very clear about this. 174 of our dams, our weirs throughout the city of Buffalo, our SPPs, today are in compliance. And so during most storm events, these sites do not overflow. And they meet the goals of for water quality today. 13 of these sites would have met compliance, would have met the water quality goals if we had continued with the 2014 projects. However, 18 locations, many of them along the buried section of Scajaquada Creek, the Scajaquada Drain, would not have met compliance. And so these locations became the focus of moving forward. And so we have roughly 50 sites throughout the city of Buffalo that we have developed different projects to address combined sewer overflows within. It's going to cost roughly $1 billion in 2022 dollars. And it's going to be over the next 15 years. So with that 15 years ending on December 31st of 2040. And so this is really what we're presenting today, is these projects, where they are, what their goals are, and how we are trying to achieve the overall water quality goal in the city of Buffalo. So overall, we're looking to have clean waters and a resilient Buffalo. But as we realized that we would need to basically have a new long-term control plan, we also recognized that this plan needed to reflect values beyond just clean waters. It needed to reflect strong community partnerships, ensuring that we were creating workforce opportunities for today, for tomorrow, and well into the future, and ultimately that there is an economic impact. This is $1 billion being invested in our city, and we need to ensure that that money is being well invested and that it goes beyond having creeks and rivers that people can kayak in, but also that people have jobs and the ability to provide for themselves for decades to come. So this is the mission of our Queen City Clean Waters Initiative. So overall plan. Just some ideas of what to expect. There is going to be a lot of construction happening over the next 15 years. A lot of this is going to be within the city right of way, within the city streets. And you're going to see equipment and traffic cones guiding you where you need to go and keeping you out of the construction sites. With any sort of construction, there is some level of noise and dust. We will take measures to mitigate both to the greatest extent possible. Question we often receive is this going to cause backups into my house? Is this going to cause odors in my house? And there is no reason that this is going to cause any new issues for any homeowners. If you have issues with your internal plumbing today, it's not likely to fix those internal issues, but it will not cause new issues for you. As far as rodents, this has come up quite frequently, especially when we start talking about some of the deeper projects. So I did talk about that we have existing infrastructure 40, 50 feet below the surface. And some of that infrastructure that is 40, 50 feet below, those tunnels, we are going to need to connect to. And so there is going to be some deep excavation with this. And we recognize that when you start talking about deep excavation, you can start disturbing where our rodent neighbors have already set up their homesteads, and that can cause issues for people's homes. And so we will have rodent control measures in place to deal with the rats. And we've looked to New York City to help guide us on this because they have a rigorous strategy there to deal with rats during construction. Additionally, we often hear concerns about traffic patterns. Is this going to result in road closures? Short answer is yes, some of this will involve roads being closed temporarily. Some cases, those temporary closures or diversions are going to be a week or so. In other cases, it might be longer term. So it might be a year or two for some of these projects. As much as possible, we try to keep the sidewalks open. There might be times that certain sidewalks do need to be closed. We will, again, look holistically at all of the different transportation modes that people use to get around our city, whether it is for motorized vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians. And also, we've worked closely, we will continue to work closely with NFTA to make sure that relocated bus stops are clearly marked, advance warning is given, and that people can get where they need to go using the buses throughout construction. Additionally, some of these projects are going to limit street parking. Again, we're going to work as much as possible with the Department of Public Works and with the parking department to make sure that as much as possible alternative parking is provided. There's going to be times that parking is going to be tight. And we also have made an effort to incorporate into our fencing not only putting in fencing so that people are not looking down at deep holes and at the sewers and seeing the unsightliness of our construction sites, but also using that for educational purposes. So even if you are just driving by, you can see why there's a hole in the street, where we're going with this. And so this was done with Broadway at Oak, with our real-time control inline storage project there. And we will continue to do that throughout construction over the next 15 years. And we are continuing to look at new ways that we can use those fences as public communication opportunities. But again, everything's going to vary from project to project as to what mitigation measures are appropriate. So let's talk about some of those projects, starting with the Delaware District. In Delaware District, there's really two major gray infrastructure, so not green infrastructure projects that will be occurring. The first is under construction right now. That's the Gates Circle real-time control structure. we're expecting will be done sometime this fall with that project. We still need to run some communication and electrical lines for it, but ultimately that project is almost completed. And what it allows us to do is to balance flows between two major sewers running across the city of Buffalo and prevent overflows to Skajakwita Creek. The other major project that will be occurring in Delaware District is the Hurdle Northeast Inline Storage. So this is at Hurdle in Delaware. It is a project similar to the inline storage real-time control projects that we have done elsewhere in the city over the past decade. So Hurdle at Deer, Bird, Broadway at Oak, Bailey Avenue, those big holes that took up lane to lane, curb to curb. That's what we're going to be doing at Hurdle and Delaware. It's not scheduled to start construction until 2037, and there will be significant public outreach before that time and significant coordination with the commercial and residential communities along that corridor, and coordination with Department of Public Works. We are well aware that this is going to cause significant traffic disruptions and access issues. It's where this project needs to be based on where the sewers lay. It needs to happen in order to meet our water quality goals, but we do understand that it will be disruptive to the community under construction. Once it is constructed, there's going to be very little that people will see in the community as a result of this project, other than there's going to be less combined sewer overflows to the Niagara River. And so ultimately it will improve water quality. It'll be disruptive for a few years of construction, and then there'll be memories of having dealt with that construction, but people that weren't there probably won't see a lot as far as this goes. Next. Okay, so Ellicott District. So again, the Gates Circle project kind of borders multiple districts. And so it's in construction now. It's technically in Ellicott District, but it obviously impacts Delaware District. It's right at the convergence of multiple Common Council district lines. Coming up soon is the Michigan Avenue projects. These are three projects that will occur within manholes. So these are existing manholes, these are existing structures. What we're going to do is we're going to raise those weirs, those dams that already exist in these locations at Michigan and Dodge, Michigan and Riley, and Michigan Glenwood, and ultimately prevent overflows to Skajakwita Creek as a result. We're looking to start construction next year. And again, these are going to involve minor traffic disruptions for about a week at a time. There'll probably be 2 weeks total that traffic will be disrupted. And at the end of the day, there'll be improved water quality to Skajakwita Creek. Then we can talk about the Oak at Swan project. This is again currently under initial design. This is going to have more traffic disruption, and it will prevent overflows to the Buffalo River. we're looking at different ways to achieve this. At that point, there is, again, an underground structure that already exists that needs to be modified to keep more flow within the existing system and less flow overflowing to the Buffalo River. And this will improve water quality at Canal Side in particular, because that's where the ultimate overflow point is. And so there is an economic benefit to this project. Okay, Hamburg and Seneca, again, this is, there's going to be an installation of a new sewer at the intersection of Hamburg and Seneca Street, and connecting down south to Perry. And we're looking at spring of 2031 to start construction there. These other projects, again, also Chicago Exchange, spring of 2031. They're a few years out still to begin construction. The earliest projects will be dealing with Scajaquada Creek. The later projects often are going to be dealing with Buffalo River. That is strategically true because the biggest impacts that we see of our combined sewer overflows are to Scajaquada Creek and the Black Rock Canal. The impacts of overflows to the Buffalo River are less. And so we've pushed those projects with less impact further out in our schedule. So Chicago and Exchange, again, this is an existing manhole changing how the weir structure, the dam structure exists within that existing manhole. It will have probably similar impacts to those Michigan Avenue projects. Perry Street sanitary sewer. This is upsizing a older line and to create more capacity and also improve access to it. This is a sewer that currently flows underneath the 190 and also has very limited capacity or very limited access as a result. And so this project not only helps to deal with combined sewer overflows, but it also helps us to ensure that areas around the arena have good maintenance long-term, and we don't experience interruptions due to lack of access to our system. While main work will not begin till 2036 with the upgrades to the Perry homes, we have replaced some of those sewers and upgraded them to ensure that we aren't going back into a place where the Perry homes have just replaced a lot of the other infrastructure. So we've already started this project, but the main project won't kick off until 2036. And then finally, we have sewer separation at Larkin and Exchange, again, 2036, 2038. This is an existing sewer that it carries stormwater from one of the underpasses, and right now it mixes in with sanitary sewage, and instead we're just going to let that stormwater be a separate storm sewer system and separate it out so that the stormwater is not going to the combined system, it's just going straight storm and lessening the amount of stormwater coming into the combined system. Next. Okay, Fillmore. Okay, so Fillmore wraps around a lot of our waterways, so there's a lot more busyness on this map. So we have the Virginia and Bust-Eye project. This is again one of those internal modifications to an existing manhole, starting in spring of 2028. So that's fairly soon. Then we have the Erie Basin Marina offline storage, and this, similar to the Virginia and Busti, we're actually beginning preliminary design now. This says Erie Basin Marina offline storage. If you're in that neighborhood, you might better know this area as Waterfront Park. And so we're looking to put a large underground storage tank, so 5.5 million gallons underneath Waterfront Park, and then do some park improvements on top. And at the same time that we are storing sewage under the park and ultimately getting that to the treatment plant, also improving the park in the process. We also have the Trenton and 4th Street project. This, again, similar timelines with Virginia and Busti and the Waterfront Park. We're already beginning preliminary design now. It's a new chamber and a gate along that Waterfront Park area. And again, just balancing flows between a major trunk line and the interceptor sewer, and then ultimately balancing those flows with that new underground storage tank under Waterfront. Then there's the Fillmore and Clinton sewer patrol point, the weir modification at that location. And again, it's really working within that existing manhole to balance flows within the system. Then we have the Clinton Park offline storage. So this is storage underneath an existing park, 2.56 million it's calculated at right now. But it will be underneath the park, and I'm sorry. Yeah. And then we have Bass Alley offline storage. So that's Larkin and Roseville. This is an area right along the railroad that we're looking to have an additional storage tank, 3.66 million gallons, and kicking off in 2034. Pump station modifications at Babcock and Howard. So there is an existing pump station at this location. We're going to further upgrade it. We've already done some initial upgrades of this station over the past few years. And this will further improve the storage capabilities of that pump station. And then there's sewer separation, Larkin and Exchange. And I covered that one. And then Louisiana and Mackinac. So this is down in the 1st Ward. This is an area where it is within the floodplain, this and Louisiana and Republic. These have been moved forward in the schedule over the past year or so to reduce flooding sooner. And so there is some initial design happening now for both of these projects. And it's reducing, increasing the capacity of the system along this area of the city, reducing overflows within it, and keeping as much of the river out of our system as possible as well between these two projects. So we are aware of the flood issues, and these won't completely eliminate flooding issues in the first ward, but they are being designed to help mitigate them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so then we get to Lovejoy. Okay, so some of the initial projects that are kicking off, we have Bailey at Kearns in Texas, Kearns at Genesee, and then ultimately, and then Kearns at Hagen, and then ultimately the Schiller Park offline storage project. All of these projects are in various states of design and construction today. The Bailey and Kearns, we'll talk when we get up to university about some of the other projects that we're already doing along Bailey. We were initially going to just install sensors at Bailey and Kearns in association with that project, but now we've decided to just go ahead and move ahead with this project and reduce overflows instead of just building out our sensor network at this site. And then Kearns in Texas, again, we're making modifications to the existing system. All of these projects along Kearns, we are putting more flows into the tunnel and less flows into the underground portion of Skagway Creek, ultimately. And so we're looking at construction of these projects. All of these SPP projects are going to be happening between now and 2028. So different timelines slightly for each of them, but that's basically the overall expectation. And then in 2028, as the smaller projects are wrapping, we would be going into construction on the Schiller Park offline storage. So this is an up to 8 million gallon storage tank that we're looking to put in roughly where the football field is today in Schiller Park to hold flows, primarily those flows coming in from Cheektowaga, and create more capacity within the tunnel so that more flows from the city of Buffalo can flow through. Also to have the Clinton Street and Houghton Park, Clinton Street offline storage. So this is a large underground storage tank within Houghton Park. And we would be looking at construction in 2032 to 2036. And again, we have, with all of the parks projects, been in continuous conversation with the Parks Department on their plans for these parks, working through what their timelines are on different improvements, and working with them as to how, when we're done, we can restore the parks to at least as good as when we came, but preferably also incorporating in some of their long-term goals into the parks as well. Moreland Park offline storage, we would be looking at 2035, 2040 for construction. Again, this is an underground storage facility. I will note that most of these underground storage facilities, we are not using pumps. We are using gates because these sites were chosen based on the ability to have gravity flow. So there's pipes in the area for most of these offline storage facilities that have that are running at a very high pitch, and so this actually will improve the longevity of those pipes by causing less degradation from the high rate of flow, but at the same time also creating this additional storage capacity. Okay, Sewer Patrol Point 104. So this is south of the 190 overpass within Bailey. The work's going to be done within the existing manhole. We are well aware it's a very high traffic, high rate of speed through there, and there will be significant traffic controls put in place to help protect both those that are traversing the site and our workers while this construction's underway. And then also Babcock at south of Elk. We're going to be replacing the existing sewer on Babcock between Elk and the Buffalo River, upgrading it, and modifying the weir within it. And this is expected in 2031, 2032. And if you look at this map, all of the sites south of Broadway, those are really impacting the Buffalo River. Those north of Broadway are really impacting Skajaquita Creek. Okay, next slide. Okay, Maston District. So again, we're looking at projects that really impact Skajaquita Creek within Maston District. And so you'll see that these timelines tend to be coming up very quickly here. Michigan at Glenwood is on the border between Ellicott District and Maston. We've also called out the 3 Michigan Avenue projects to the 2 additional Michigan Avenue projects to the south. We know it will impact both districts, but it's really on that borderline between the 2. And again, this is coming up soon, but the impact during construction to the public will be minimal. The biggest impact is really water quality improvement. Ongoing right now is the Florida Street project. So real-time control chamber at SPP 229A. So this work is really happening right now. This is the separation of storm and sanitary. We're also replacing the water line and especially the lead services, so the building sewers or building connections for water as they're being encountered along Florida Street. And we're going to be putting in new trees and sidewalks and pavement at the end of the day here. So that work is ongoing right now. And it is part of an overall roughly $100 million project in this East Delavan area. The next phase will be a tunnel along Spillman. And that tunnel is going to connect between Florida Street and Delavan. And then at Delavan, in the former Canisius parking lot, we're going to be putting in a large underground storage tank. And so we're looking at construction in 2028. There's still some design work to be done there, but we are moving ahead with that project. And then also currently in construction is Bailey and Amherst. And this is really adjusting existing controls to the quarry station. And so the quarry station was put in the 1940s to prevent flooding in northeast Buffalo. And this just increases the amount of stormwater going to that, into the quarry and then being brought back out after there's capacity downstream. So during wet weather, it goes to the quarry. When it's dry again, it pumps back out. Then we come to Colorado at Skajakwita. Again, we have been in talks with the community and with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for this site. This project is really conceptually simple in that all we are doing is making a bigger, larger diameter hole to the existing tunnel that runs 50 feet below so that we can keep more flows off the system. But then the bigger issue is that it's it's south of a Superfund site. And so we have been working through those issues there, and we'll continue to, and there will be measures put in place to protect the public throughout. Humboldt and Lark, this is not quite at Lark Street, it's actually north of there along Humboldt, doing work within the existing manhole, modifying the dam. Sydney Street, offline storage. This is actually being, instead of putting in a tank, we're looking to upgrade the sewers now. And so again, we're very quickly entering into public outreach specific to this project. And if you're in the neighborhood, please reach out if you are interested in learning more and engaging us more. I think that's this, okay, Niagara District. Okay. So Niagara District, again, it's really the Black Rock Canal that's being impacted for the most part. The first project at the top is the Delavan Drain real-time control. This is Delavan at Niagara Street. There's an existing chamber 50 feet below grade that we are going to be upgrading and modernizing, and ultimately using a deep tunnel that was put in the 30s for storage. And it's not till 2033 that this kicks out. That's because this work is dependent upon all of the work on Skajakwita Creek being completed first, and taking flows off of the tunnel so that the tunnel now can be used for storage. So we're quite a ways out on that. Similarly, we're going to be putting in a new tunnel, beginning at Niagara and Gull, and heading both north and south from that direction, to create additional capacity right before flows go to the treatment plant. And so adding space so that before overflows occur. We also have 3 projects at the base of Albany Street. We are continuing to look at these projects and looking at ways to achieve the goals of these projects. They are at a critical point in our system where flows come to this low point and then need to either go back to the interceptor and go even deeper, or they need to overflow. And so all 3 of them we're working through how best to achieve this. And then Virginia and Bus Dive we covered earlier when we were talking about Fillmore District. But then the other one to talk about is Breckenridge Street. This project will be entering into construction probably this fall. We are currently, we have a contractor finalizing contracts. And this project involves replacing and upgrading 2 sewers that run down west between Lafayette and Breckenridge, improving the existing sewer along Breckenridge Street, and putting in a new shaft from the existing sewer, or from the new sewer that's being run down west to the Scajaquada Tunnel. And this will decrease overflows to the Black Rock Canal at the base of Breckenridge. Okay. Next, North District. So again, we have that project that's borderline Hurdle and Delaware we talked about earlier. The bigger project is the Military Road offline storage facility. This is located behind the school at West Hurdle Academy at Hurdle and Military Road. This is going to be 11.55 million gallon storage tank in the parking lot area of that school. We're not planning to begin construction till 2030. And we anticipate we will have significant outreach and involvement in the community and with the school as we approach those dates. And it ultimately reduces overflows to the Niagara River. Okay, South District. There's relatively low overflows coming from South District today. However, some of the infrastructure that we've had in place to prevent overflows that impact South District is getting quite aged at this point. And so we are looking in the coming year to upgrade one of those Kelly pump stations that I talked about earlier, the Kelly F station, to improve flows from the outer harbor. And so that'll be happening next year. We're also looking to upgrade a 1930s pump station next year and in the years to follow at South Buffalo and Bailey, or at Bailey right at the Buffalo River, to keep flows from South Buffalo flowing to our treatment plant. As far as the Queen City Clean Waters proper goes, the major project in South District is the offline storage facility at Durant Park, Hopkins and Osage. That's not really kicking off till 2034, so there's a lot of time for public comment, a lot of time for public interaction, and to really envision together what the final project looks like, what the final restoration looks like. It's going to be really dealing with overflows to the Buffalo River, but it's ultimately, the tank will be in a park location. This one did require a pump station, and we have identified and are working with the City of Buffalo Department of Real Estate to use a vacant lot for that so that we are not taking away parkland at the end of the day. Next slide. Okay, University District. So as I mentioned, there's work ongoing on Bailey. Bailey in Minnesota modification has been completed. And we still have this ongoing work at Bailey and Amherst. I'm sure that if you live in the area, you've seen construction ongoing in the hole and the traffic diversions. We are wrapping up in the next few months on that. And ultimately, more flow will be going during wet weather to the Quarry Pump Station, and less overflow will be occurring to Scajaquada Creek. The biggest project is our offline storage at Edison and Martha. So this is the Roosevelt Park. We have been in ongoing discussions with the Parks Department as they have their master plan for Roosevelt Park to coordinate with them. We're looking at construction, not this summer, not next summer, but the summer after kicking off. So we're going to be well into design soon. And if you live in the neighborhood, we will be having specific community outreach for this project in the very near future. And we've already started to have discussions with nearby block clubs. Okay. And then there were, on that last slide, you saw where we're looking at green infrastructure at the Kenfield Langfield projects. With this next slide, you can see overall, we have a lot of green infrastructure being planned. The first ones are really in those Maston and Ellicott districts, primarily, Maston, Lovejoy, Fillmore is where we're primarily focusing some of our initial green infrastructure, but over the next 15 years, there will be significant opportunity for green infrastructure throughout the city of Buffalo. We had this environmental impact bond that was restricted to specific discharge locations. And so we've really targeted those areas first to go with that bond, but there will be opportunity for additional infrastructure, green infrastructure. And so the first location for that will be at Hennepin Park, beginning initial construction next summer, but then we'll also have it throughout much of the east side over the next 3 years. Okay. And that was a lot. Anyone for questions?
Thank you, Rosie. A lot of great information shared on these projects. As I mentioned at the start of this call, the first of many touch points over the past 3 months, we've actually organized council district in-person meetings to talk about these projects from a focus standpoint. And in the process of that engagement, and even before the council district meetings, in partnership with our community engagement lead, the Hallmark planning team has also had specific touch points with community-based organizations to talk about these projects. And we've gotten a lot of questions related to the Delavan OLS project, as well as Sydney and Lark. So I'd like to start there on questions related to Sydney and Lark. First, 2 questions, Rosie, from the Northland Taxpayers Association based in the Maston district. Or few. Why was Sydney and Lark Street selected as a site location, and what will the project look like once completed?
Okay, so Sydney and Lark was chosen because it is a location where there are multiple overflows that occur right at that location. The 33 comes back up right near the footbridge, and that comes back up, and the footbridge is there because that's where Skajakwita Creek, the drain, runs. And so the physical overflows are occurring into that drain at that location. At the same time, the Skajakwita Tunnel 50 feet down is crossing the drain at that location. And so there's really not, there's a lot of different sewers that are converging in that area that causes those overflows to occur at that location. And so it really needs to be in very close vicinity there for us to actually address the overflows. The initial idea was to put in an offline storage facility because there are city-owned vacant lots, which we do look for city-owned properties for these projects, because then we can use these projects to promote community betterment, whereas if it's private ownership, we end up spending a lot of money on lawyers and negotiations and payments to private property owners to use their land or to take possession of their land in order to install these projects. And so, again, we felt that we could do some community betterment. As we move forward, we are looking to, we've looked at, can we do this as inline storage, ultimately reduce the cost to the ratepayers overall, and decrease the impacts during construction to those around us. And everything seems to be pointing in that direction. But again, we are currently looking to organize a project-specific community outreach on this and work with the community moving forward with this project.
Thanks, Rosie. And then another project-related question for Sydney and Lark. Can you explain the connection to this project to the Route 33 Kensington Expressway project to differentiate those two?
The Kensington Expressway project is a New York State DOT project that is currently on hold as they work through their environmental impact statement. And with the 33 again, they are limited as to how deep they can go with that expressway because we have a creek that is running through the middle of the project at this location. We are in communication with the DOT and ensuring that their project will meet water quality standards and that their stormwater is being properly treated. But they are a state agency, and much as we are trying to communicate with them, they're going to follow their own process and their own procedures. We will coordinate any traffic diversions with them, and ultimately we do need to achieve the water quality goals with this project.
Right. We did receive, related to Sydney and Lark, one additional question. Who should I contact as a resident and Block Club member near the Sydney and Lark project? I've been working to ensure that my neighbors are informed about the project and would love to discuss directly. So thank you, Art, for filling in that information. The point of contact there is Miss Stephanie Lee, who is president of the Northland Beltline Taxpayers Association. All right, so we do have some additional questions that I've input from in-person meetings and questions received from community associations from our council district meetings. I'd like to hold those questions, if no others from attendees on the call, to the end, so we can move towards the demonstration of the interactive website. So with that, Mr. Art Hall, I'm going to turn it over to you from the Hallmark team, the program's community engagement lead, to talk with me a bit about what the collective strategies have looked like.
Thank you, Walt. Phenomenal presentation. And what we're going to do at this point is just briefly talk a little bit about some of our engagement efforts. I want to start before we go to the next slide. As mentioned in the introduction, some of you may have seen a trifold flyer. You may have participated in a brief electronic survey. Some of you may have participated in a phone survey. That was some initial data that was captured so that we could learn a little bit more about what people knew about Buffalo Sewer Authority, how familiar they were with the functions of Sewer Authority, if they know there's a difference between the Buffalo Sewer Authority and the Buffalo Water Authority, what each one of those do, and the relationship that you have with the Sewer Authority. So we've done a lot of preliminary engagement work last year with attending events, community meetings, making sure that we were a part of um, opportunities to get the word out about this program. And that's exactly what it was, just getting the word out. Um, as we continue to use this data, we developed an engagement plan and strategy, an overall plan, but then some tactics that we wanted to use from that data that we thought would be the most effective way to inform people about the Queen City Clean Waters initiatives. In addition to that, one of the things that we thought to do to help guide this process so that we would not function as a program team alone, one of the important things was to involve the community residents. And we did that in a form of a stakeholder advisory group. If you want to go to the next slide, well, so we've created a stakeholder advisory committee, and the purpose of this committee was to serve as, a vital bridge between the project team and a diverse community of Buffalo, ensure that, the community perspectives, concerns, and insights were actively incorporated into the initiative. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that this would be the group that would help guide us as we brought information back to them on how we should be engaging. Here's the plan that we've established. Here's the events that we're going to be attending. Are these the right events? And to also create a robust and inclusive engagement methodology and practice. And the idea here is that the program team, we have a level of expertise, but we wanted to include a robust stakeholder advisory group into this so that we would be included and they would be included into the planning process. And so we have representatives from the various organizations that you see listed there in bulleted form. The opportunities that we have to engage not only extends to just boots on the ground, door to door. We do all of those things. I'll talk a little bit more about that in our efforts of the tactics that we use to engage, including our virtual tactics. But we want to make sure that we are reaching the correct people groups as well. And so this group helps us to be able to do that. You can go to the next slide, Walt. So as things arise, we want to make sure that we are reaching the underrepresented firms. This is a very, very, very big project, a number of projects within the program. And we want to make sure that just as we are taking efforts to build an inclusive stakeholder advisory committee, and let me take a quick step back. The way we did this is we did not just come up with a bunch of random names. That was actually the starting point. But we created a scoring rubric based on what was important for the Buffalo Sewer Authority and what was going to be important for us in order to build the team, where we didn't just have a bunch of high profile names, but we actually had the right people on board to be able to guide us through this type of process. So it was a rigorous process, and we went through a scoring process, and we were able to come to a consensus on a group of individuals that would help help guide us in the engagement process. So as this project, as big and as robust as it is, there's going to be a lot of opportunities with this. And so we want to make sure that just as we were as robust and as inclusive as we were with the stakeholder advisory committee and being strategic in who we selected, we also wanted to do the same with creating economic opportunities for disadvantaged minority men, women businesses, MWBE businesses, the service and disabled veteran-owned businesses, firms that are included in this. With the opportunities that are going to arise, we want to make sure that we are intentional about reaching those individuals. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Walt, to talk a little bit more about the program.
Thank you. Our another opportunity that's coming in 2025 is the creation of the Community Partnership Program, inspired by community benefits programs established by other utilities across the U.S. It's an acknowledgement that through Queen City Clean Waters, Buffalo Sewer is going to be spending millions of dollars each year building and maintaining the infrastructure needed to provide wastewater treatment, protect public health, improve water quality, and manage combined sewer overflows. And so, in acknowledgement of that, Buffalo Sewer wants to ensure that construction and professional services contracts deliver positive economic, environmental, and social impacts for the residents. And the community partnership program is that mechanism to do that, in establishing meaningful partnerships between registered nonprofit community organizations and City of Buffalo Public Schools with consultants and contractors in Buffalo Sewer service area that do business with Buffalo Sewer. I do want to make it clear this is separate from the MWBE, DBE, SDVOB requirements that were mentioned on the previous slide. There will be established contract goals for each of those projects, but this, the Community Partnership Program, is really about consultants and contractors making a civic commitment to community-based organizations and City of Buffalo service schools through the contracted projects. And so those commitments through volunteerism or financial contributions to define community partners will be through a memorandum of understanding that becomes part of the contract for each of those projects. Not a separate contract, but a part of the contract for each of those Queen City Clean Waters projects. And the primary focus areas of the partnership include education, offering educational programs and initiatives, especially in the field of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, to foster knowledge, skills development, workforce development, establishing job training programs, creating employment opportunities in the water and construction and environment sector to build a skilled workforce, keep people in the city of Buffalo in wastewater management and related sectors. Number three, economic development. Art spoke briefly on that as it relates to the growth of and involvement of historically underrepresented firms in the sheer magnitude of the work of the effort needed to do this work. And so promoting economic growth by supporting infrastructure projects, fostering meaningful and intentional partnerships that drive economic activity and community prosperity in the city of Buffalo. And lastly, public and environmental health, improving public health and environmental quality through enhanced wastewater management practices, ensuring a cleaner and healthier environment for the community in partnership with the community-based organizations that are already doing this work. So this is a really exciting opportunity that's going to grow later this year and will expand in various contracted projects. We'll talk a bit briefly, or we'll talk a bit more about that over the coming months through strategic community touch points. In person with upcoming events. We have a virtual open house informational session coming September 16th to make the public and the contracting community aware of upcoming project opportunities. But we're really excited about how we take this investment, this really generational investment in water infrastructure, and multiply the benefits to the community in the city of Buffalo. So lastly, we're going to close out with opportunities to stay engaged and a walkthrough demonstration of the interactive Queen City Clean Waters website. But first, I'm going to talk a bit about the affordability program related to the water and sewer bills. Rosie, you want to talk a bit about that?
Yes, so this is something that Buffalo Sewer has really been trying to get out into the communities, make sure folks are aware of, and make sure that those that are eligible are taking advantage of. For those that are low income, so up to $54,250 per year for a single person, or $102,300 for a family of 8 would be considered low income, and the rest of the categories are there in that third column. There's a $60 per year discount on your sewer and water bill through this program, specific to sewer. This is in addition to those discounts that are offered by water. Similarly, if you are very low income, so $33,950 per year for a family of 1, up to $64,000 per year for a family of 8, you are eligible for a $90 annual discount on your water and sewer bill specific to the sewer portion. And again, there are similar programs being offered by Buffalo Water. Both of them you can apply for at buffalowater.promisepay.com. And we really want those that are eligible to be taking advantage of this. We are talking about $1 billion over the next 15 years. We are very actively pursuing grants, especially at the state level, private when we can find them, but then also ways to finance this through the state and through other opportunities to reduce the burden on our ratepayers. But we know that we have very low income and low income ratepayers in the city of Buffalo, and we want to make sure that they are not being overburdened. Finally, senior citizens with the enhanced star exemptions will automatically receive a $106 credit on their sewer and water bill specific to the sewer portion, based on that enhanced star status.
Thank you, Rosie. Art, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk a bit about an upcoming event that the Buffalo Sewer and Program Management team are planning. So take it away.
We are excited for the Queen City Clean Water Fair. Now,
Indeed.
if you are on this call or if you are watching this recording at some point in time, you are automatically entering into a participant. You have to come. But then, number two, we are going to sign you up as a volunteer, um, even if it's honorary. So, in an effort to continue to inform the Buffalo community about the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative, and to have an opportunity to learn how this works in demonstration form, we have developed, actually, this has come, this is a part of the vision of our chief sanitation engineer to have this Queen City Clean Waters Initiative. This is going to be an opportunity where we are going to gather at Delaware Park at Hoyt Lake. We are going to have vendors. We're going to have water demonstrations. We're going to have a little bit of food for you. And this is an opportunity for you to bring the family to come and learn about Queen City Clean Waters, but then have a series of interactive sessions and demonstrations that's going to be there. This is an opportunity for not just, food, family, and fun, but there's an interactive education portion to it, right? So this is not an opportunity to, come and listen to, just a lecture, but actually see a demonstration and get involved. Multiple demonstrations. So we want you to bring the family. It's going to be Friday, August 29th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The registration link for the QR code is at the bottom. Please, if you would like to serve as a volunteer, we are opening it up for volunteers. We'll be sending out a link very soon where you can register to be a volunteer. We will have certain groups and positions for volunteers. So if you just say, hey, I'd love to volunteer, it doesn't matter, just put me anywhere, great. Or if you say, hey, I got maybe an hour I can serve, just give me a little bit of time. And, if I can serve at a registration table or do something, we have those too. So please keep on the lookout for this. The flyers have went out and are continuing to go out, and we will have more information coming for our Queen City Clean Waters Initiative. and we can begin to wrap it up. So to stay involved, um, please go to the Buffalo Sewer Authority website, buffalosewer.org, for information on not only the Buffalo Sewer Authority, but there is also a link to the Queen City Clean Waters website, link to the site. And so make sure that you take the opportunity to stay up to speed on information on the Buffalo Sewer Authority website. Um, and then we're going to transition to the interactive website. And Walt, if I have an ability to share my screen really quick, um, one of the things we wanted to do with engagement is not just have opportunities to engage the public um, through a variety of tactics. So there are boots on the ground tactics. We partner with the city of Buffalo and we go through the city, various neighborhoods, door to door. We hand out information there. Again, we're at block clubs, board of block clubs meetings, block club coalitions, council districts, stakeholder breakfast meetings. And you may have seen us tabling and doing things there and having conversations. But if we're going to have an opportunity to reach a robust community throughout the city, we thought the easiest way would be through a way where everyone can be connected, and that's through a digital context. And so the Hallmark team, who is responsible for the engagement efforts, we developed for the Buffalo Sewer Authority a Queen City Clean Waters interactive website. The website here, I'm going to put this in the chat if we haven't already done so. And or I think somebody may have put it in the chat. I'll get this in the chat to you all. Um, it's buffaloqccw.org, and it will bring you to this site. And what this site is designed to do is not only be an educational piece, but also be a source where you can provide feedback and you can get involved in giving us feedback on the Queen City Clean Waters website or the project, rather. And so we have a home button here. What I'll do is just take you through it really quick. And as we put the link in the chat, I'm going to have those of you who are with us to participate in a brief portion of this. We have a link to the Buffalo Sewer Authority webpage. So if you click this link, it'll take you directly back to the Buffalo Sewer Authority's webpage and the Queen City Clean Waters site where you'll have information here. We do have this in multiple languages. So if you are in another a language, Spanish or Portuguese, you can click on either of these and it will take you and translate this site into that language. We have our banner. One of the features we wanted to have is not just have a website that you can come to and just look whenever there are updates, but we wanted you to be a part of our virtual community. And the way to do that is just to click this link here, join our community. When you click this, it'll take you to a form. You fill out your information, you go into a database, and then that way we'll keep you informed with what's going on with the Queen City Clean Waters. Um, uh, Information sessions, things like this, the virtual sessions, anything that's coming up, you'll begin to see emails and text messages come about the Queen City Clean Water Fair. This is how you stay a part of that community. And we'll give updates as to when we make updates to the webpage so you can come back and continue to participate. We have some vintage photos and we have some photos of a site here that we just wanted to make sure that we were providing some visuals. An important feature of this is our frequently asked questions. We wanted to maintain the questions that we received in our community meetings and in our virtual meetings like we have now. One of the things that we thought was important was that the more people are educated, the more they'll know and the more they'll get involved. And the way to be able to do that is when we're out and about in a community and we have an opportunity to engage with you all, and you all ask questions. We write those down. We'll put them on a sticky. In our council district meetings, we thought it was important to have an entire poster board dedicated to receiving questions and answers. Even though you all ask questions and may have not put a sticky note on the board, that's okay. We got the question, which is the most important part. And we take those questions, we bring those questions back to the camp. We consult our engineers, our experts on these, the program team, Buffalo Sewer Authority, because we want to make sure that we're giving not just the right answer, but the right answer in its most simplistic form. Uh, there's a lot of terms that we even went over just this presentation, and we want to make sure that we make it plain and simple for everyone to be able to understand with what's going on in their community. And so once we have that and we compile that, we bring them to this website. And so these questions are actual questions that we have received from the community. So you can come to the site, and if you have questions, they're probably here. If not, then there's an opportunity for you to leave questions. And you can leave questions through the various sources, which I'll go through in just a second. And we'll take those questions and we'll implement those here in our FAQ section. This is not limited. So our frequently asked questions, we plan for this to be robust as well. At some point, we're going to have a dedicated page to just frequently asked questions. That's how involved we want to be, and that's how involved we want you to be. So please, if you see a question and you say, hey, I was about to ask this question, how will the construction impact local businesses and services? I got a business that's near Hurdle and, near this project that's going to occur. Well, you can ask a follow-up question. We'll add that to it as well. We have about the initiative. We have our mission and our vision of the project and the program rather. And that's a little bit of information for you just to keep up to speed with the context of what's going on and why we have this. And then we have our 3 interactive links, and we wanted to just start very basic instead of putting a whole bunch of things on here. This is going to grow as time goes, but we wanted to start really basic. So the first is a survey. We have an interactive online survey, and the goal of the survey is to receive feedback from you all so that we can better improve our engagement process, strategy, and methodology. It's important for us that, we started out with an initial engagement approach. We put a kind of a plan in place. We put some things in place that we can do, but that we're looking for it to evolve and we're looking for it to get better. And the only way it can get better and evolve is if we get feedback from you all. We're using social media to, get information out about our events, about meetings, about various projects and locations that are coming out, about our district meetings. Well, we want to make sure that we're reaching the right individuals. Maybe, a lot of our uh, uh, listeners and those who are involved are on Facebook. Well, we're looking at creating a presence on Instagram and TikTok. And I know TikTok may not be for people who they say are older, but let me tell you something. I have a TikTok account, and I won't go into, and I created it myself, my son. So I have a TikTok account. I think I deserve some kind of a badge for that. But we are looking at creative ways of getting our social media getting more involved and active in our social media and using the younger generation to be able to do that. And so we're thinking through things like this, and all of this came from feedback from you all. And so these are some of the creative ways that we're looking to do this. But that all starts with a survey. So if you click on that survey link here, it will bring you to our survey, and just click Start Survey, and it will take you through each of the survey questions. They're relatively 10 questions. It takes roughly 3, maybe 4 minutes, depending on how you go through the survey to complete the survey. Those of you, I know you're watching this. If you do have the ability to, I don't know if we shared the link, but if you do have the ability to click the link and take the survey, I promise I will not be upset if you are taking the survey while I am going through this. I would really appreciate that. When we held our district meetings, one thing that we did during this portion was to just kind of take a pause, let individuals click the link, take the survey, And I did that, just that. Pause and take the survey. And I won't come back until you finish because that's how important it is for us. But if you are able to, great. We would love for you to do that. If not, please do it after we get off the call here. The second is we wanted to create a community forum. Now, our survey is primarily multiple choice questions. We want you to just go through it so we can get the information. We have analytics that we put out. Kate Segura, who is on the call, administers the survey and the data with the survey, and we present that to the program team once a month from the feedback that we get from you all, and we go through this to make sure that we are applying new tactics that's according to the feedback. But then there may be some that say, "Hey, I actually have something to say." Well, we wanted to create an opportunity to share your insights, and this is our community forum where we ask a simple question. What do you think would work best to improve our water system, green infrastructure, community initiative, placemaking, etc.? It doesn't have to be those. And as you type in a comment, um, as you type in a comment and submit, it goes to a series of comments that you can read other comments. You can see individuals and what they're saying. There are far more comments than this. We wanted to make sure that we just had a demonstration for you. But you can actually like the comment. You can comment on someone's comment. We wanted to make sure that we keep a running line of comments so that we can continue to participate and have feedback on the program. And then lastly is our social map. And this is a map of the city of Buffalo, the council districts, and the actual project or the actual program with the various projects throughout the districts. So when you click on the social map, it's going to bring you to this. Have a map of the city of Buffalo. You have if you go to the layers, you have each of the councilmatic districts. Uh, you have the theme where you can turn on and off the district. Let's say if we just wanted to focus on the Maston district, we can turn off all of the other districts and then we just have Maston district and we can see what projects are going on in the Maston district. Um, and then we have our categories. So each of these icons represents the type of project, offline storage, SPP modification, and these were some of the terms that Rosie went over with you in the presentation. And each of these are thematic as well. You can turn off, you can turn on each of these. So if I live in the Maston district, I can single out Maston district and say, hey, I am over near Sydney Lark. And if I zoom in, oh, what's going on here? We have an offline storage project here. I can click on that project, that icon, and it will bring me to a pop-up. That pop-up will give me just a little bit of information about what's going to be going on there. The important thing is we wanted to provide the location and a little bit of information. And also, just as the question that was asked, we also want to make sure that we are providing contact information as to where you can go to the nearest meeting, where's the Block Club Coalition meeting. Also, another group that's here is Square Block Club, which is actually administers Square Garden, who's here. We have here a SPP modification project that's at Humboldt Lark. You can click on that and it'll also give you a brief description of what the project is. So those of you who are on, you can take some time and go to the interactive map and learn about what's in your neighborhood, if there is a project that is in your neighborhood. Um, and we tried to make it easy for you to be able to navigate this. I do want to acknowledge again Katie Segura, who her and Annapurna Nag from the Hallmark team, who has Kate put this together. and working with J.M. Davison, another project consultant that is on to be able to get the locations and all of the data for this to make it easier for you all to participate in learning what's going on in your neighborhood. We do have a timeline. Currently, and what will be ongoing is our stakeholder advisory meetings. We have these meetings once a month, and we are participating in various events. We, again, as I mentioned with the stakeholder advisory committee, they do that, just that, they advise us. But then we also wanted to make sure that we posted this meeting, the Queen City Clean Waters virtual public participation meeting, also with links. What's going to be coming is we are going to be posting information from the various public meetings we held with the council districts, and more information, pictures, and other information from meetings that have been held that we want to keep the public involved with. So I'm going to stop there. And if there are any questions regarding the engagement strategy or the presentation or the community participation program, Mr. Walker, I think we will take those questions now.
Yeah, I think we're at 2 hours here, so we've not received any additional questions outside of the ones I've shared. Our goal, and Art kind of hinted at this earlier regarding the walkthrough of the interactive website, is that we're collecting all the questions we've received from community members and stakeholders, and responses to all of those questions, including the ones that we've received today, will be posted shortly on the FAQ section of the interactive website, and we're going to continue to build upon that. So I want to thank you all for your attention today. On behalf of the program team, my name is Walt Walker, Program Director of TY Lin, for the program management team, joined by Art Hall, our Community Engagement Lead from Hallmark Planning, and Rosie Nogle from Buffalo Sewer, Principal Sanitary Sewer Engineer. Thank you all for your time. This recording and copy of the slides will be posted, and wishing you all a great rest of the weekend. Thank you all and take care.